And yeah, we'll be starting in 1 more minute. We are waiting for some people to join in. We are already 100 people here. Yeah, just 1 more minute, guys. All right, guys, I guess we can start now. First of all, thanks a lot and very good evening to all of you for joining in. And CDFPSC is really delighted to have you all with us in this another super amazing session on of Hope and Cope series. And the session is on coping up with anxiety. And it comes under the project Kushi Se. So first of all, thanks for being here. And we obviously have our speaker here, which is Miss Rashi Thakran, a mental health advocate, activist, and WICCI council member, and a well-known speaker. She's a certified QPR instructor, raised a national petition with 5 lakh plus signatures that led to the establishments of India's first 24/7 free mental health helpline number. She conducts many webinars and sessions on mental health as well as different workshops. And over to you, ma'am. We are really looking for a insightful session.
Thank you so much for such a warm welcome. Is it okay if I share my screen for the presentation?
Sure, ma'am. Sure. I would request the host to pass the hosting to ma'am so that she can share the screen. Sanidhya. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think the sharing is disabled for me. So if you can just give me the sharing right.
Just a second. Sujal, if you can pass the sharing, I feel yes, you can get them now. Is it?
No, not yet.
Just a second. All right. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yes, now I can. Thank you.
Great.
Okay, so I hope everyone can see my screen. Today, we will be talking about dealing with anxiety during uncertain times. And I think this is very apt for this session because right now we are in the midst of a pandemic and it is a very unprecedented situation. And I think that's why I understand how important this session is for all of us today. And that's why I want this to be a safe space for all of us. I want you all to be able to share your stories, to be able to share your experiences. If there's anything that's troubling you, if there's anything that you want to talk about, think of this as a safe space where you can talk about it, share it, and talk without filters, basically. And I want this session, that's why I want this session to be as interactive as possible. And also, obviously, we'll be having a question answer round at the end of the session. Don't worry about that. But if at any point you want to ask something or you want to share something, even during the presentation, please feel free to do that. So just to begin with, I want to have like a quick check-in with everyone here. There are around 120 odd participants here. So I just want to quickly ask you, how are you feeling? Maybe if you can tell us in one word or a sentence, how are you feeling right now? To begin with, I think I'll probably start by saying that I have had been feeling very, very anxious, but today I feel grateful and I'm feeling a little relieved because a month back, my family and I, we all tested positive for COVID. And obviously that was a very overwhelming time for us. It was a very difficult time for us because it was my mother, my grandparents who had tested positive, and it was me. And obviously with your grandparents you're extra scared what might happen. But thankfully today we've recovered well, we're doing much better. So I think I feel grateful, I feel relieved. Obviously there are those post COVID symptoms, and that's going to take some time to go away, but I think the feelings that I'm having right now is that of gratefulness and of relief. um, what about everyone else in the room? I don't think I'm able to see the chat section right now. So if someone can maybe read out what the people are responding.
Sure. Karan is saying he's super excited. Rajeshri is saying she's feeling great, and many excited are there. Someone Nishant is feeling lazy. I don't know why, but yes. And Kushi
That's
is really
quite
excited for
okay.
this session. Smriti is feeling okay. Sani is feeling okay as well. And
Hmm.
Tamanna says that she is having mixed emotions.
That's
Yeah,
quite all right. Yes, yes. Great. If anyone wants to unmute and also tell how they're feeling, if they want to share maybe an anecdote of how they're feeling, why they're feeling mixed emotions, or maybe why they're feeling lazy, why they're feeling a certain way, it's okay. Please feel free to do that. No issues there. But yes, I do understand. I think right now we're feeling a lot of things. We're all stuck at home again. We're in a lockdown all over again, and it is very overwhelming for so many of us. And there are a lot of mixed emotions. Like I said, I've been feeling very anxious because uh, with the second wave, things are getting a little more real. It's coming into our homes, and it's happening to people we know. So it is a difficult time, it is an overwhelming time, and I think that's why it's important to have this space. Uh, so talking about anxiety, I just want to sort of move on to the next uh, bit here. We're talking about anxiety here, talking about anxiety during uncertain times. So for that, it's important for us to know what is anxiety, right? uh, so, just briefly, what anxiety means is it's prolonged and constant periods of stress, right? And it also makes us worry more than usual. That's basically what anxiety is. And here's where people tend to confuse anxiety with stress, right? A lot of times we tend to confuse stress and anxiety. And that's where I want to sort of bust that myth and help you understand the difference between the two. So, when it comes to stress, stress is usually caused by an external factor, an external force is at work. It could be your work, it could be an assignment, it could be an argument you maybe had with your teacher, your friend, your parents, your boss, etc. But when it comes to anxiety, anxiety often has no obvious cause, right? Anxiety for anxiety, you cannot pinpoint a certain factor, a certain cause for it, which often makes it worse for the sufferer because the person who's suffering with anxiety doesn't even know what's happening to them and why it's happening to them. What's the reason for their anxiousness? Coming to the physical symptoms, when it comes to stress, it includes headaches, stomach complaints, fast heartbeats, dizziness, etc. And when it comes to anxiety, the physical symptoms are quite similar to that of stress, which is probably why we tend to confuse the two. But in anxiety, in addition to all of that, you always struggle with sleep and insomnia. So that's a major, major tell sign It's a telltale sign. It's a major warning sign of anxiety. If you're not able to sleep at night, if you're suffering with insomnia, then definitely that could be something, that could mean something. Finally, stress is very common, right? A lot of times people even say stress is important. Stress, we often talk about eustress. Eustress is important for us to do a job properly sometimes. If you're nervous about an assignment, if you're nervous about a meeting, let's say, the stress helps you prepare better, etc., etc. So it's very common, and oftentimes anxiety is prolonged. It stays, it's prolonged periods of stress without any external reason or factor for it. And that's why people with anxiety, they feel constantly anxious, they feel stressed constantly, they feel like they're in that fight or flight mode at a constant rate, and they often suffer with another condition. More often than not, they suffer with depression as well. So this is the basic difference between the two. But again, this does not mean that you diagnose yourself, that you perform self-diagnosis, that, oh, I'm feeling this way, I probably have anxiety disorder, or I probably have depression. That's not the right thing to do. What we want to do through this slide and through this presentation is that we want you to reach out to a professional if you're feeling this way. If you feel that, okay, maybe you're not able to sleep at night, maybe you're suffering with insomnia, maybe you're constantly stressed and you don't know why, you don't have a reason that you can pinpoint, then maybe talking to someone is the next best step to take, right? Coming to the next slide here. So right now, why is it that we're all feeling anxious right now? What is the reason? I mean, obviously there are a lot of reasons, and I see in the chat box that someone has said it's very frustrating to sit idly at home. You want to explore new things. Instead, um, the the schedule sucks. Yes, absolutely. It's infuriating that you just have to be at home all day long. I completely agree. Exactly. You want to go out, you want to meet your friends, you want to have social contact, social connections, not just virtual connections through your screens. You want more than that. You want that physical presence of your parents, of your love, of your friends, of your loved ones. um, and that's probably why so many of us are feeling anxious right now. So also, in addition to that, there are some more reasons here that I want to state. Number one, uh, the second, I think people are doodling on the screen. If we can remove that. Is it just me who's seeing it, or is everyone seeing it?
Yes.
Sorry.
As you as the host, you have to stop the annotations. You will be receiving an option down there.
Okay, annotations, right?
Yeah.
Clear. I can clear it.
Yes. Even you can stop it for future. Yeah.
Okay.
Good to go, I guess.
Okay, understood. Clear, save. I'm not sure if I don't think there's an option for me to stop. I can clear it, but I don't know if I can stop it.
It's all clear. Those who are doing it, I'll request not to do this doodling stuff. Just concentrate on the session. I guess we can continue. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. I think a lot of artists here today. Great. So I think the reason a lot of us are feeling anxious, and so many of us have rightly said in the chat box, the second wave right now is stronger than the first one, right? There's also so much more death around us, there's more uncertainty, and there's prolonged hopelessness. That when will this end? You know, when will we be able to go out? I think in the first during the first lockdown, there was still a little bit of hope where we were like, maybe this will last for 6 months or so, and then we'll be able to go out and life will go back to normal. Maybe we just have to get through the year 2020 and that's going to be it. A lot of people were also joking about how let's just remove 2020 from the calendars. But here we are in 2021 and it's the same situation. And now people are starting to wonder, is this how life is going to be going forward? Is this how it's going to be you know from now on? Will this ever end? And I think that is causing a lot of hopelessness, a lot of frustration, uh, that we might never be able to go back to the way things were. And obviously, with the second wave, there's just been so much more uncertainty, so much more death. Secondly, obviously, there's fear of infection, there's fear of isolation, and the virus is now entering our homes. You know, until the first wave that we were talking about, the first lockdown, that is back in 2020, the war was raging outside. The number of deaths were just statistics on our screens, and we were like, okay, it is happening, it is scary. You were sympathizing with people, but at least your family was safe, you were safe, you were not affected. The worst that was happening to you, you were at home and you were not able to go to college or to work. But right now, a virus has entered our own homes. Our loved ones are in the hospitals, our loved ones are suffering. There's so much that's happening to people that we know. And I can vouch for this personally, having experienced it within my family. It is very scary. It is becoming a reality. It's not just numbers and statistics anymore. It's very, very real now. And that's escalating the fear to another level altogether. And we're obviously constantly consuming negative news, right? When we switch on the TV, when we see the news channels, people are only talking about the coronavirus, the pandemic, the COVID new strain, the new variant, etc., etc. And it's just a never ending cycle. And that's definitely causing a lot of negativity, a lot of fear, and a lot of uncertainty. And obviously, it's making us very, very anxious. And finally, I think it's very important for all of us to realize that what we're experiencing right now is a mass trauma. It is a mass trauma. It's a traumatic experience that all of us are experiencing all together. And it's impacting all of our mental health. We are witnessing, experiencing, we're feeling and trying to process so much that's happening across the world simultaneously all at once. And this is all thanks to social media, to the news channels, the news that we're consuming daily on a constant basis. So definitely we're all processing so much so soon and consecutively that it's becoming too much for us. And that's why cut yourself some slack, because this is a mass trauma that all of us are experiencing. And that's why it's okay to feel the way that you're feeling. If you're feeling anxious, if you're feeling frustrated, if you're feeling hopeless, then definitely it's okay, because we're all feeling this collective trauma. Yes, someone says mass trauma is an understatement. It is, because what you're feeling right now is just collective grief altogether. It's also a lot of collective grief that so many people have lost their lives. I think even within this room, I'm sure all of us know someone or know of someone who has died because of the virus. It could be in our family, it could be within our friends circle, it could be our friends' family, it could be our teachers, it could be colleagues. So it's okay. I know this is very difficult. Yes, I can see in the chat box that a lot of people are sharing their grief, and that's why it is a very difficult time. People have also lost their jobs, yes. So we've lost a lot. And that brings me to my final point. We are in this constant state of hypervigilance right now. We're always in that fight or flight mode. There's literally no respite, because We're just constantly feeling this threat around us, all around us, that if we go outside, something might happen to us. If my mother goes outside, something might happen. If you know, if colleges don't open up, I don't know how my future is going to look. People are losing their jobs. What if I lose my job? Etc. 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 There's always this state of hypervigilance that we're feeling, and that's why we're feeling so anxious. That's why anxiety levels right now, according to research and according to experts, are at an all-time high, not just in India but across the globe. So another thing that I wanted to talk about today was something that we've all been collectively feeling in the year 2021, and that's languish. What is languishing? So languishing is basically a new term that has been coined, and I think it is the dominant emotion of 2021 as described by experts. It is a sense of stagnation and emptiness that we're feeling right now. All of us are just feeling stagnant. We're feeling empty. We feel like our life is not going anywhere. We don't know what's next. Know what's going to happen next. So languishing is not depression exactly. It's also not burnout. It is that empty void between depression and flourishing. So you're not exactly depressed. You're still going on with your day. You're still doing your daily activities. You're still, attending classes. You're going to work, etc. But at the same time, you're not flourishing either. There's that absence of well-being, that absence of mental wellness is there. So that's called languishing. And I think a lot of us will agree that this is something that we're feeling right now. We're feeling that we just don't know where we are. We don't know what to do. We don't even feel motivated enough to do something, because we just tell ourselves or just ask ourselves, what's the point? What's even the point? Yes, in the chat box, I can also see a lot of people saying, agreeing, first of all, and not wanting to do anything, feeling hollow. Absolutely. So I think right now, all of us can, agree that we have a word for this. We have a word for this feeling that you're feeling right now. It is languish, and it's okay, you know. So when it comes to languishing, what does languishing do? How does it make you feel? First of all, it dulls your motivation. Like someone said in the chat box, there's just no motivation to do anything. Obviously, you're still going ahead and doing things. You have to do your day-to-day tasks. You have to finish those assignments. You have to finish those things that your boss has given you, etc., etc. But it is without motivation. It is without inspiration. It is without eh, anything. You don't really feel like you want to do those things. Secondly, it disrupts your ability to focus. So there's lack of concentration as well. It reduces your productivity. So, I think this is something we all relate to, that in the first lockdown, when, in early 2020, when the lockdown was first imposed, a lot of us wanted to be productive. We were doing a lot of different things. Someone was baking, someone was cooking, someone was reading more, someone was making music, dance videos, etc., etc. So we were all constantly doing something. We were trying to be productive, so much so that it became sort of like a productivity race, which was also not very healthy. But there was some hope there that people wanted to stay productive. They wanted to try new things, take some time off and do it. But right now, since we're all languishing, that feeling has also vanished. And also it increases the odds that you'll cut back on work. Languishing leads to the fact that you will cut back on work. You will not work to your full potential, and that's exactly what languishing does. You're just not functioning at your full capacity. You're not functioning at your full potential right now, and that is okay. you know all of us, if not all, a lot of us are feeling this way. A lot of us right now who are stuck at home, who are languishing, who are feeling demotivated, not productive enough. We're all at this stage right now where we're not properly probably we're not functioning to our full capacity or full potential, and that's completely okay. It's important to know that you're not alone here. Right. So I think this is where I want to sort of share some things or some ways of how we can make ourselves feel a little better, right? Um, let me just go through the chat box real quick. Yes, I have things to do, but don't want to do it. Exactly, Soumya. I think that's what languishing does to you. You know that, okay, maybe here are some things I can do or I want to do, but I just can't find the motivation to do it. Is there a way to overcome this languishing? Yes, we'll be talking about that in this slide. Um, all right, yes. I was really happy and energetic last year, but now totally sluggish. Exactly. That's that's a lot of us. Trust me, you're definitely not alone. And that's probably why it's even more important for us to have this session today and just get those feelings out there and just know that we're not alone. A lot of us are feeling what you're feeling right now, and it's completely normal, it's completely okay. And trust me, it will not always feel this way, it will pass. So just talking quickly about how do we make ourselves feel a little better? How do we deal with these anxious thoughts? How do we deal with languishing? How do we overcome these thoughts and these feelings? First and foremost, check in with yourself regularly and bring yourself to the present. Right now, our minds and our thoughts are just all over the place. I know there's so many things that are going on in our heads. I can definitely speak for myself. There's just so much that's happening in there because there's so many people I'm thinking about, so many things I'm thinking about. I'm even thinking about my future. I'm thinking about my parents. I'm thinking about the entire pandemic, the situation, etc., etc. So it definitely tends to take a toll on your mental health. So you are right now your best friend. You need to check in with yourself regularly. You need to also bring yourself back to the present if you find yourself lingering away from it, if you find yourself dwelling on things, if you find that you're going to those anxious thoughts, you're going back to uh, those dangerous and those anxious thoughts. You need to bring yourself back to the present. Also notice how much negativity that you're sort of inculcating. How much negative news are you reading and you're sharing? And also try to reduce your intake if it affects your well-being. So be it on social media, be it on news channels, try to reduce the amount of negativity that you're imbibing and the amount of negative news that you're reading, because this is really messing with our mental health. Taking those breaks are really, really important. Most importantly, you need to create an agency around you. Identify helpful coping mechanisms. Now, I can right away give you a list of coping mechanisms right now and tell you that, oh, these are some coping mechanisms that work for me, that I've seen working for people. But trust me, I know for a fact that you will probably note those down and never see those again or just throw those away, because mechanisms that work best for you, and you know what works best for you. So think of coping mechanisms that work for you. For someone it could be painting, it could be art. For someone it could be dancing, it could be singing. For someone it could be spending more time with your family or having a conversation with an old friend. For someone it could be journaling, it could be having a gratitude journal in place. For someone it could be listening to music or reading books, or just playing with your dog or watching dog videos online. It could be anything. It could be anything for anyone. And that's what I want you to do. I want you to identify those coping mechanisms that have helped you in the past and jot those coping mechanisms down and use them. And also create an agency around you. Create an agency in the sense, have people around you who give you those positive vibes, who uplift you instead of putting you down, and who have been able to help during these difficult times. So that will really go a long way in ensuring that you feel a little better even during these uncertain times. Also, don't delay therapy. If you feel you need help, if you feel that your anxiety is getting the better of you, if it's been a while since you've been feeling this way, you're constantly feeling anxious, you're not able to sleep, like we discussed in one of the previous slides, if these are some of the signs that are telling you that something is up, please don't delay therapy. One must not wait for the worst to happen before seeking help. So that's something that I really want to sort of put out there, that don't wait for things to get really, really bad before you decide to seek support. There are a lot of people out there who are right now wanting to help. They are there to listen to you, there to help you. So don't delay therapy. Next, if you're feeling anxious, try to separate yourself from the problem. Try to separate yourself from it and look from it from a wider lens. And also remember, you are not your anxiety. You are more than that. The anxiety is just a part of you, it's not completely you. And that's why it's important for you to separate yourself from that anxiety and look at it from a wider lens. And that's where therapy really, really helps. Also acknowledge your feelings, because I think I've been saying it over and over again, it's okay to feel what you're feeling right now. A lot of us are on the same boat, so definitely you're not alone. And acknowledging your feeling is the first step towards healing and towards seeking support. If you want to get better, it's important that you acknowledge your feeling. It's okay that I'm feeling this way, and it will get better. It won't always feel this way. Finally, have a conversation with your anxiety. Maybe it has something important that it has to tell you. So maybe ask your anxiety, what is it that it wants? What is it that it's trying to tell you? Maybe there's something important that it's trying to tell you. So try to maybe have that conversation. Create a work life boundary. So what I mean by that is, it's pretty simple, that don't let your work or your assignments or your college seep into your personal life. Make sure that there is a clear cut boundary, that you also remember to take out time for yourself, which brings me to my next point. Remember to take and those tiny little breaks from time to time. Remember to tune out from time to time and give your mind some space to unwind. And again, this could be through any of the coping mechanisms that you've identified for yourself. So take our time and do something that you really enjoy, that you really like to do, that you uh, want to do and you've
Thank you,
been meaning to do for
Patanjali.
the longest time. Maybe even reach out to a friend, talk to someone, maybe spend time with your family, maybe spend time with your dog. It could be anything. Identify that coping mechanism that really helps and take out time to do that. Sticking to a routine is again very, very important. So obviously right now I know that in a lot of places lockdowns are lifting up, people things are opening up, but trust me, we're not going back to our colleges, our schools, or our offices anytime soon. There's still time for that. So we're definitely at home, at least for the time being. And that's why it's really important to have a routine at home. It really goes a long way in setting your day and not making you feel unproductive, or just not making you feel sloppy or sluggish. So even if it's a very simple routine, doesn't have to include a whole bunch of things, but having a simple routine, when to wake up, when to sleep, when to eat, when to relax. These things can go a really long way in just defining your day and giving you that control, because your routine is something you can control. There are a lot of things which are out of our control and we can't do anything about it. But let's try to make the most of the things that we can control. And our routine is definitely one of those things. And finally, I've been saying this time and again, know that you're not alone. I think so many people in the chat box are commenting, and I've missed so many of the messages, but I think it just goes to show that we're not alone. All of us are okay. Okay to not feel okay. Yes, absolutely. So, yes, people are also sharing the coping mechanism that works for them. Gardening, having a to-do list. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. So just know that you're not alone. All of us are here. Around close to 150 participants are here. And I think we are all able to relate to each other. And it's important to know that it's fine. We're all together. We're all in this together. We'll get through this together. Right. Finally, and this is the last slide, and then we can open up the floor for questions or for experiential sharing. Anything you'd like to share, we can open up the floor for that. But before that, I just want to talk quickly about radical acceptance. Right? What is radical acceptance? Now, radical acceptance is a distress tolerance skill that is designed to keep pain from turning into suffering. Now, what does that mean exactly? So we all know pain is part of our lives, right? Pain is a part of life. But with radical acceptance, what we do is that we keep that pain from turning into suffering for us. How do we do that? It's by accepting the reality without throwing a tantrum or with willful negligence. In other words, we say it is what it is. But that does not mean that we're helpless. It does not mean that we become helpless. We just say every time, oh, it is what it is. I can't do anything. This is how life is. It's how life's going to be. It's out of my control. No. Instead, what we do here, what we do with radical acceptance is that we acknowledge the things that are not in our control, right? We acknowledge them that, okay, these are things that are out of my control. I can't do anything about it, but instead we focus on the things that are in our control. And also, we don't get stuck in thoughts like, why is this happening to me? Why is this happening right now? This is so unfair. So these are the kind of thoughts that we need to keep away from. We need to keep out of our heads. And that's where radical acceptance comes into the picture, where we accept the things that are out of our control. We acknowledge the things that are out of our control. Instead, we focus and work on the things that are in our control. And those are the things that we can change and we can do something about. So we focus on that. So if you want to obviously learn more about radical acceptance, because radical acceptance is something that all of us need to practice right now more than ever, because the pandemic is something that is not in our control. Whatever we tell ourselves, this is something it's not in our control, and we've seen it. We thought it would end in 2020, but that's not happened. So what is in our control then? How we respond to the situation? How do we make the most of this situation, right? Being stuck at home, how do we make the most of the situation? By attending sessions like this, by creating spaces like this, by doing something for the society, by helping out people who are in distress. And so much has been happening in that area as well, right? COVID relief has been happening by the people for the people. So how do we make the most of the situation? How are people doing that? How are people still finding that ray of hope in the midst of all of this darkness? That's where radical acceptance comes into the picture. So if you want to learn more about radical acceptance, there is this amazing book by Tara Brush. I can share the link with you as well. So that is something that you can read and learn from. It's a beautiful book, and it can really teach you a lot. It did teach me a lot. So yeah, so with this, I would like to end the session, and I just want to thank everyone for joining in. You can reach out to me. This is my email and my Instagram. And I think now we can open the floor for questions.
Sure. If anyone of you are having some queries, or if you have anything to discuss, you can even unmute yourself. And we already know that there are lots of artists here, and your coping mechanism includes sketching, but need not to do that on screen. I request again. Yeah. Let's move ahead to the questions, guys. Anne is asking, should we completely avoid certain things which makes us Should I repeat?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Sanya is asking, should we completely avoid certain things which makes us anxious?
Yes. I mean, see, things that make you anxious, things that make you doubt yourself, things that make you frustrated, they make you feel sad. Those are the things that you need to avoid, need to steer clear of, and not just things. Honestly, I would go one step further and say avoid people who make you feel that way. You need to surround yourself with people who make you feel good about yourself, who make you feel better, who give you the positive vibes that you require right now in this time, who lift you up instead of pulling you down. So surround yourself with people and avoid things and people who make you feel anxious, who make you feel bad about yourself.
All right. Um, Tamanna is asking how to deal with inferiority complex.
um I think we've all been there, Tamanna. Inferiority complex. I think in the age of social media, um, the the level of comparison has skyrocketed. I felt it. I'm sure you felt it. I'm sure everyone in this room has felt it. Uh, People tend to compare their lives. People tend to compare everything on social media. I think the best way, and that's something that I've done for myself since I have always been very active on social media. Uh, Taking those breaks from social media has it's been a blessing for me personally. um, it really helps you, it really helps you ground yourself. So I try to stay away from social media as much as possible. I do post, but apart from that, I make sure that I don't have my notifications on. I'm not checking Instagram or Facebook or even WhatsApp every 2 minutes or every 5 minutes. And instead I'm spending time with real people who are around me, who care for me, be it my parents, be it my friends. And that really helps ground me because they know the real me. Social media doesn't know the real me. People on social media don't know the real me. And people are quick to judge there. People are quick to comment. People are quick to compare. But I think spending time with your loved ones is something that really goes a long way in grounding you and also helping you understand that you are loved, you are cared for, you are wanted. So then there's no question of feeling inferior to anyone.
Hello, ma'am. I have a question.
Yeah,
Yes.
go ahead, Kanika.
Yeah, yeah. So, like, it's not completely related to anxiety, but like a few months ago, I decided to make an exercise routine for myself. But just after doing it for some days, I feel like so unmotivated and not wanting to do it, like very lethargic, just leave it and, just lie down on your bed and just that's it. So, like, do you have any solution for this? Because I guess most of us are suffering from this thing.
Hmm. Hmm. No, I'm myself suffering from this thing, so I can completely relate. Especially with the lockdown. When the lockdown happened, before that I was very regularly going downstairs, going for my jogs, even going to the gym. I felt like really motivated, and then the lockdown happened, the gyms closed, and I was just back to being a potato at home. So I understand that there is that lack of motivation, there is that languish that we talked about, that constant languishing, that you want to do something but you just don't feel motivated enough to do it. And that's completely what I would suggest is that you have created this routine for yourself. You said you created this exercise routine for yourself, which is amazing. Obviously, if you feel you're not able to do this every day, maybe start slow, maybe start every alternate day, or maybe allot a day or 2 days for it, maybe a Monday or a Thursday or a Tuesday or a Friday, whatever works for you. Maybe allot a couple of days for it. Don't do it every day. And it will be a conscious effort. You'll have to, I mean, uh, you'll have to tell yourself that today I'm going to do this for half an hour. Tomorrow could be my rest day. Maybe you can give yourself those tiny breaks, like I said, that okay, today's Monday. I'm going to do it every Monday and Thursday. So Monday is going to be the day that I go all in. Tuesday is going to be my rest day, and then so on and so forth. So give yourself those incentives, and you'll have to make sure that you put those conscious efforts. Even on days when you're like, I just can't do it, try to get out of bed and just do it for 10 minutes, if not 30, if not an hour, do it for 10 minutes. And you will realize slowly that you will get into the groove, and eventually you will just go for it. You won't even have to tell yourself to get up and do it. Your body will just tune it, and it'll just get used to it, and it'll automatically go for it. So I think this could be a place to
Yes, I
start.
think the
I
grade
hope
for
that
a
helps.
rest day would work for me, like alternate days, like good. I can do this.
Yeah,
Thank you for the solution.
yeah.
Hello, ma'am. I have a question.
Yes.
First of all, ma'am, I'm really liking your session. It was a much needed session for the situation we are in, so thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for joining.
Ma'am, one of the major questions I'm faced every other day is that how can one think rationally and not let anxiety direct their emotions for some critical decisions or some work related work we have to do? How can I separate two of them?
Right.
Can
How can you separate your anxious thoughts
Yes, ma'am.
and the critical decisions that you have to take place?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. I think I think anxiety definitely does that to you. It seeps into all these parts of your life, and um, it does make you question a lot of these things. But I think, like I said, and this is something that I talked about in my slide as well, you are not your anxiety. Anxiety is a part of you. So whenever you're faced with, let's say, a critical decision or a critical situation, uh, separate yourself from that problem. Don't let that problem or that situation consume you. Separate yourself from that situation and look at it from a wider lens. For example, if it's something at your workplace, or if it's something at your college level, or maybe your exam, your assignment, look at it by separating yourself from it, and then think about, number one, what you need to do to sort of achieve it. What will be the consequences if you don't do it, or if you don't achieve it? um, how is this important to you? Because obviously it's very important to me, important to you. So separating yourself from your anxiety and from that situation, and then looking at it from a third person's perspective, is really, really important. And also, that's when um, taking help from loved ones, taking help from friends or colleagues, really, really helps. And if that is not something that's viable, then seeking professional help, taking help from a professional, also goes a really long way in helping you with your anxiety and separating yourself from your anxiety, most importantly. Because I think the biggest problem that people face is they are not able to separate themselves from their anxiety. They're not able to separate themselves from the problem. The problem tends to consume them. And I think that's where therapy, that's where professionals really, really help. So I think those are some things that, some solutions that you can look at. I think a professional would be able to better tell you how to exactly do that. But yeah, I think those are some ways to sort of look at it.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I'll definitely try some of these. So, thank you.
Hello, ma'am. I also have a question.
Yes.
Question is how to get rid of social anxiety and become a better public speaker.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. Um, I mean, I want to ask you, how does the social anxiety affect your public speaking, or affect when you're in public? If you would like to share. Oh, have we lost her?
I'm sorry, ma'am. Your voice is breaking. There is some network issue from my side. Can you
Oh, okay,
repeat it
okay.
again?
I'll just repeat. So, you said that you want to know how to overcome social anxiety and become a better speaker. So, I just want to know, how is the anxiety affecting your public speaking skills, let's say, or your
I don't speak. I hesitate. Like I don't speak.
Mhm. I understand. So, be it, it doesn't only have to be on stage, but even in a public setting, when you're with friends, you have difficulty speaking there as well.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, understood. So I think social anxiety is a very real thing. It is a type of anxiety disorder. So if a lot of people who experience that, and especially when it's on a severe level, they tend to seek help, they tend to seek support. And again, I will reiterate myself, therapy goes a long way. There are professionals who are there to help you cope with it. There are coping mechanisms that can really go a long way. And I think professionals are the best people to answer those questions, to help you give those coping mechanisms a try. But at the same time, when you're talking about public speaking, I myself am a public speaker, and it can get very overwhelming sometimes, talking in public, talking in front of so many people. So I think on your own level, how you can sort of work on it is, maybe just practice with yourself, in a room in front of a mirror, or maybe in front of a camera. Sometimes just talking about it, just talking about things, and even with people, even with the right friends, friends who understand, friends who you trust, friends you're close to, family members you're close to, maybe a sibling that you're close to. You can practice with them, and that really helps with the anxiety, that really helps with the social anxiety, it really helps with the public speaking as well. But yes, if it's very, very severe, I would definitely suggest that you reach out to a professional, because there are a lot of people out there who can help you with this, and a lot of people out there who have been helped with social anxiety. They have social anxiety and they were able to overcome that. And trust me, it's not something that you have to live with for the rest of your life. Definitely not. It's something that you can definitely overcome. So yeah, so definitely maybe those are some things to try.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Tanu Sharma is asking, I'm not able to make myself study continuously even for 5 minutes. What should I do?
Yes, so I think the lack of concentration, the lack of focus is really catching up to us right now. And you definitely have a name for that feeling, that we're all just feeling absolutely demotivated. Um, so right now, if that's something that you're struggling with, if you're struggling with focusing, if you're struggling with studying constantly, I think something that has helped me definitely is taking that break and just doing some of those deep breathing exercises. For me, deep breathing really helps. Grounding techniques really help, because a lot of times when I sit down, be it to study my notes, be it to study for an exam, or to study for a course, uh, a lot of those anxious thoughts, they tend to constantly come into my head. And that really messes with my entire concentration, my entire focus, and I'm not able to study anything. So I think in addition to that, taking things slowly, taking breaks. If right now you're not able to do it, it's okay. Find a time where you feel the most productive. I'm sure we all have these times in the days where we feel we're the most productive. So me, this is in the evening, after dinner, that is between 9 to 11. That's where I feel I'm the most productive. That's where I sort of tend to sit down and create things. I also study around that time. So define a time, choose a time, identify a time of the day where you feel like you can get the most done, and then create your routine that way. And that's why I say that creating a routine according to you, something that works for you, is really, really important. So maybe identify that and work on it.
Amazing. The chat box is flooding with queries. I am hoping that we can clear most of it. And those
Sure.
questions which are being missed or will be missed, you can drop them to our PMs or to Rashi ma'am on maybe Instagram DM if that works for you. Yeah. Soumya is asking how to stop comparing your journey with someone else's journey and being hard on yourself.
Oh, wow, such an important question. Yes, we need to stop comparing our journey with other people's journey, because uh, our all of our journeys are completely different. Not even in terms of the destination. The destination comes like, it's not even something that we're discussing right now, but even the route, the route of your journey is, it might be completely different from the person who's probably sitting next to you, or maybe your best friend, or maybe your sibling, or maybe partner. It could be something completely different. So it's really important to not be hard on yourself when you see other people achieving certain things, because your journey is different, your timelines are different. I think most importantly, your timelines are different. You don't have to achieve a certain thing at a certain age or by a certain time. um, and this is where I read an amazing book called The Crossroads of Should and Must. And I think all of us here should read that book. I'll put it in the chat box as well if anyone wants to read it. It's called The Crossroads of Should and Must, and that's where the author talks about how, as a society, we are conditioned to think about all the shoulds, all the things that we should do, but in that process we forget about uh, thinking about the things that we must do, things that truly make us happy. And that's our journey, that is our timeline. It's not that you should be married by the age of 27, or you should have a well-paying job by the age of 23, you should have kids by the age of 30. That is not something that we should be focusing on, but sadly that's something that we're all focusing on right now. Instead, what we must focus on is our journey, it's our experience, it's the risks we take, it's the life we make of ourselves, it's the relationships we have, the people we meet, etc., etc. Those are the things that we should be focusing on. So please don't compare your journey with anyone else. You definitely make your own journey, and you need to sort of just compare yourself with yourself. And I think that's all that I can say about that. But
Right, I guess
definitely read that book.
we can
It's
take
very enlightening.
one or two more questions if I guess
Yes,
we have
sure.
time. Someone is asking what lifestyle changes should one make to cope up with anxiety issues?
What lifestyle changes?
Right.
Yes. Okay. So, as someone who has struggled with anxiety in the past, I think I'm in a position to answer this question. Um, Back in 2019, I struggled with clinical anxiety. I was diagnosed with clinical anxiety, and that's when I could not sleep at night. I was struggling with insomnia, etc., etc. And I think that's when my therapist suggested these lifestyle changes, and they've just really gone a really long way in helping me become a better person. In the past 2 years, since 2019, since the time I was diagnosed. So number one is definitely creating those boundaries. And by that, I mean setting time for yourself, basically. What time do you wake up in the morning? What time do you sleep at night? How long do you sleep for? So since I was struggling with my sleep because of the anxiety, I could not sleep at night. So for me, the my timetable it became my lifestyle. It became something that I started worshiping. So I would sleep by 10 p.m., maximum 11 p.m., and I would wake up by 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. And I would always make sure that I get 8 hours of sleep. Always get 8 hours of sleep. That's really important. So that was definitely one lifestyle change that really helped me. It went a long way in helping with my insomnia, and touch wood, I sleep much better now. Secondly, what you eat is what you become. So having a better diet, having a more balanced diet is really important. So I obviously started having more fruits, more vegetables, more greens, and I've also given up dairy, and that's for personal reasons. But again, that's something that has really helped me. Giving up dairy has really gone a long way in enhancing my lifestyle. And then in addition to that, exercising regularly. I try to never ever skip exercise. Even during the lockdown, I make sure that I do home workouts, even if it's just 10 minutes of Zumba at home, or just 10 minutes of dumbbells, or just 10 minutes of any cardio at home. That's more than enough. But moving your body is really important because it releases endorphins, which helps with your mood, it helps with your mental health. So you don't only feel better physically, but you also feel better mentally. So definitely these are some lifestyle changes that I would really advise. And most importantly, drink lots and lots of water. Hydrate yourself, it's very important. Yeah, so those are some of the lifestyle lessons that I've learned from my therapist.
Great. I guess we have almost answered most of the queries, but as I marked, if we have missed some, you can surely drop them in Instagram handle of Rashi ma'am. We will surely drop that in the chat section as well.
Yes,
And
please,
yeah,
please.
thanks a lot for such an amazing session, ma'am. And yeah, I personally loved it. I hope everyone loved it, and it was a nice experience hosting you even. And yeah, thanks for an
Yes.
outstanding session.
I really enjoyed being here as well. Thank you so much to the entire team for organizing this, and thank you for so much love in the comment section. Thank you everyone for joining in. It's been absolutely amazing.
Right. Thanks a lot for joining in, guys. And this is the last session for the series which we are organizing. And yeah, thanks a lot for those. Thanks a lot for joining in, guys. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, ma'am. Thanks a lot.